It started out like any normal afternoon, just me, some sunshine, and a few hours planned in my orchard, checking on the trees I spent years taking care of. But little did I know, today wasn't going to be peaceful at all. Out of nowhere, a woman I'd never even seen before comes marching onto my property. She had that look, the sunglasses, the clipboard, and a whole lot of attitude. You guessed it, a full-blown HOA Karen. She stormed right up to me, waving her hands, yelling that my asterisk orchard wasn't actually mine. It was community property, and I had no right to be there. At first, I thought it was a joke. I mean, I've owned this land for years, and it's clearly marked private. But she wasn't kidding. Before I could even get a word in, she pulled out her phone and called the cops, demanding they come and remove the trespasser. That trespasser being me. Standing there in disbelief, all I could do was wait as she paced around, acting like she ran the entire neighborhood. What happened when the cops showed up? Let's just say things didn't exactly go the way Karen thought they would. Stick around, because you're not gonna believe how this one ends. While we waited for the cops to arrive, Karen kept pacing back and forth like she was guarding the Queen's treasure or something. She kept snapping photos of the trees, the ground, even my truck parked nearby. Every few minutes, she'd loudly announce that the orchard had been misused and that the community had rights to it. Meanwhile, I just stood there trying to stay calm, even though inside I was boiling. I mean, I've put years of blood, sweat, and money into this land. These trees didn't plant themselves. I started thinking back. Was there ever anything about an HOA when I bought this place? Nope. I was careful about that when I moved here because I knew I didn't want anyone telling me what color to paint my fence or when I could mow my lawn. Yet here she was, acting like she had some sort of ultimate authority over my own property. Neighbors started peeking out their windows, and a few even stepped onto their porches, whispering to each other. I could feel all eyes on me, like I was some kind of criminal. Meanwhile, Karen kept muttering under her breath, things like, "It's only fair," and people like him think they can do whatever they want. And just when I thought it couldn't get any crazier, 2 squad cars pulled up. The officers stepped out of their cars, looking around, a little confused. I could tell right away they weren't sure what kind of situation they were walking into. Karen rushed over to them like she'd been waiting her whole life for this moment. She started talking a mile a minute, pointing at me, the orchard, even the road. She told them I was illegally occupying community property and that the HOA had decided the land should be open for all residents. I just stood there, arms crossed, waiting for my turn to speak. One of the officers finally approached me and asked for my side. I explained calmly that I owned the orchard, showed him the deed I kept a copy of in my truck, and even pulled up the county records on my phone. The officer nodded, but said they still had to check everything thoroughly because Karen claimed there had been recent changes to ownership under HOA guidelines. That's when it clicked. Karen wasn't just a nosy neighbor. She might actually be part of the HOA board trying to pull something shady. Meanwhile, a small group of neighbors had gathered near the sidewalk. Some seemed curious, others just looked uncomfortable. One older man whispered to a woman beside him, and I caught him say, "She's been trying to take over that orchard for months." Hearing that made my stomach sink. There was way more to this than I thought. As the officers went back to their squad cars to double-check the documents I gave them, Karen didn't let up. She started rallying the little crowd that had gathered, telling them how the orchard was wasted potential and that it should have been turned into a park or a shared garden for the neighborhood. A few people nodded awkwardly, but most just stayed quiet, clearly not wanting to get dragged into the drama. It was obvious this wasn't just about me being there. Karen had a whole plan in her head about taking control of my land. While she was going off, one of the officers got on the radio, probably reaching out to the county clerk or whoever handled property records. I could hear Karen behind me, whispering loudly about calling the HOA president and even getting a lawyer involved. It felt like every minute dragged on forever. I stayed near my truck, phone in hand, ready to call my own lawyer if things got uglier. Then something weird happened. One of the neighbors, a woman I had barely spoken to before, slowly walked over to me. She leaned in and whispered, "She's been telling everyone lies about your land. You need to be careful." Hearing that shook me more than I thought it would. It wasn't just a misunderstanding anymore. It felt like a full-on setup. And just then, the officers started walking back toward me, serious looks on their faces. The officers reached me, and one of them, a tall guy with sunglasses tucked into his shirt, asked if I had a minute to discuss some concerns. Right away, my stomach tightened. He told me that while my deed clearly showed I owned the orchard, there was now *pending claim filed through the HOA with the county. Apparently, Karen had submitted paperwork just last week, trying to reclassify part of my land as community recreational space. I could barely believe what I was hearing. This wasn't some random HOA drama anymore. This was a real attempt to take what was mine. Karen, standing a few feet away, had this smug little smile like she'd already won. She even started snapping more pictures and loudly telling the neighbors, "This is the beginning of a better community." I could feel the tension rising around me. Some people looked excited, others looked uncomfortable, but no one said a word. The officer told me they couldn't force me off my land today, not without an official court order, but warned me that things might get legally messy very soon. That's when it hit me. Karen had been planning this move for a while, probably hoping to overwhelm me with HOA rules and fine print until I gave up. And just as I tried to process everything, another car pulled up. But this time, it wasn't a police car. It was someone who would change the entire situation. Continue from where the climax left off and write 200 words wrapping up the story. This part should provide a satisfying resolution, answer any remaining questions, and conclude subplots. Leave the audience with key takeaways or reflections, making the ending memorable and engaging. Naturally, include keywords to keep the SEO optimization strong. End the story now in natural way. Also, do not make any headings. Only write story in paragraphs. Also, keep the wording simple and natural tone. Also, make the script human-centric and don't give feel of AI-generated. Also, don't create violated content which can affect YouTube policy. The car door swung open, and out stepped a man in a suit, carrying a leather folder under his arm. I didn't recognize him at first, but Karen's face turned pale the second she saw him. He walked straight over to the officers, introduced himself as a real estate attorney representing several homeowners in the neighborhood, and apparently me too. Turns out, one of my quiet neighbors had already gotten fed up with Karen's games weeks ago and hired this guy to look into what she was up to. Without even knowing it, I had backup waiting in the wings. The attorney calmly handed the officers some paperwork that completely dismantled Karen's claim. He had proof that the HOA had *0* authority over my orchard. In fact, the land had been specifically excluded from the HOA's reach in the original property agreements, something Karen conveniently forgot to mention. She stood there frozen, clutching her phone like it was a lifeline, while the officer politely but firmly told her she needed to leave the property immediately. As Karen stormed off, fuming and shouting about how this isn't over, the crowd slowly started to break up. A few neighbors even gave me nods of support, which honestly felt pretty good after all that chaos. I thought the drama was finally done, until the attorney leaned in and said quietly, "You might want to check your orchard. I'm pretty sure she's been trespassing long before today." And that's when I realized Karen's scheme went way deeper than just today's stunt.